Every time your partner goes silent during a fight, and you respond by getting louder, following them room to room, demanding they say something, anything, you are not fighting for the relationship. You are damaging it. And you don't even know it yet. And that thing you think their silence means? You're wrong about it. Completely wrong. What's actually happening behind that blank stare is something most people never find out until the relationship is already over. The worst part? Everything you've been doing to get through to them is triggering the exact opposite of what you want. And you'll keep doing it in this relationship or the next one until someone explains to you what's really going on. In the next minutes, you'll understand exactly why they shut down, what's actually happening inside their head, and the one technique that breaks this cycle for good. Let's get the biggest misconception out of the way first. When your partner goes silent in a fight, you assume it's a power move, a punishment. You think they're choosing not to engage because they don't care enough to try. But neuroscience tells a completely different story. What's actually happening is something called emotional flooding, and it's as physical as a panic attack. Here's how it works. During a heated argument, stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, start flooding the body. Heart rate spikes, blood pressure jumps, and once the heart rate crosses roughly 100 beats per minute, something shifts in the brain. The prefrontal cortex, the part that handles logic, language, and rational thought, starts losing power, and the survival brain takes over. At that point, the brain is no longer processing the argument. It's processing a threat. It can't tell the difference between your raised voice and actual physical danger. To the nervous system, it's the same emergency. So when your partner goes silent, they're not giving you the cold shoulder. They've entered a biological survival mode. Their brain has decided that the safest thing to do right now is freeze. Not because they don't love you, but because their body thinks it's under attack. And you can't reason with someone whose brain is in survival mode. You wouldn't try to have a deep conversation with someone mid-car crash. That's essentially what you're asking them to do. Now, here's the part that most people miss. If emotional flooding happens to everyone, why do some people yell and slam doors while others go completely mute? The answer goes back much further than your relationship. It goes back to childhood. When a child grows up in a home where conflict was loud, chaotic, or unsafe, the brain learns a lesson very early. Fighting back doesn't work. Expressing yourself makes things worse. The safest strategy is to disappear. So the child learns to shut down, go quiet, become invisible. And that strategy works when you're 5. It keeps you out of the line of fire. It protects you. But 20 years later, that same child is now your partner. And when you raise your voice during an argument, their brain doesn't hear a frustrated lover. It hears the same threat it learned to fear at age 5. And it runs the same program. Shut down, go blank, say nothing. They're not choosing silence. Their nervous system is choosing it for them, based on a blueprint that was written before they could even spell their own name. And here's the part that might sting. Every time you respond to their silence by raising your voice, by cornering them, by refusing to let the conversation pause, you're confirming exactly what their childhood taught them, that expressing emotions around another person isn't safe. You're not breaking through the wall, you're making it thicker. So if pushing harder makes things worse, what actually works? Relationship researcher Dr. John Gottman spent over 40 years studying couples in his lab. He monitored their heart rates, their skin conductivity, their facial expressions, all while they argued. And he discovered something that changed the entire field. Once a person becomes emotionally flooded, once the heart rate goes above that 100 beat per minute threshold, it takes a minimum of 20 minutes for the body to return to baseline. 20 minutes, not 2, not 5, 20. And during those 20 minutes, any attempt at conversation will fail. Not might fail, will fail. The brain physically cannot process complex emotional language while the nervous system is still in emergency mode. So Gottman created a protocol. When a couple feels a conversation escalating, either partner can call a pause. And this is the key. They have to agree to come back to the conversation after the break. The pause isn't an escape hatch, it's a reset button. During those 20 minutes, both people do something that actively calms the nervous system. Not scrolling through their phone, not rehearsing what they want to say next. Something genuinely soothing. A walk, slow breathing, music, anything that brings the heart rate down. And here's what Gottman's research showed. Couples who use this technique resolved conflicts significantly more often than couples who pushed through the heat. Not because they were better communicators, but because they gave each other's brains enough time to come back online. 20 minutes. That's the difference between a conversation that heals and one that destroys. Now I want to talk about something that almost nobody says out loud, because it goes against everything we've been taught about relationships. We live in a culture that worships communication. Talk about your feelings. Express yourself. The key to a healthy relationship is open communication. And that's all true in theory. But here's the problem. We've turned communication into a moral test. If you talk it, you care. If you're silent, you don't. And that framing turns every argument into a courtroom. The loud partner becomes the prosecutor. The silent partner becomes the defendant. And the longer they stay silent, the more guilty they look. But research shows something uncomfortable. Studies on conflict in long-term couples found that the partner who pursues, the one who demands a response, who refuses to let the argument pause, often causes more long-term damage to the relationship than the one who withdraws. Not because they're a bad person, but because pursuit during flooding triggers a vicious cycle. You push, they shut down. Their shutdown makes you feel abandoned, so you push harder. They shut down deeper, and each round leaves a little more scar tissue on the relationship. Psychologists call this the pursue-withdraw cycle, and it's one of the single strongest predictors of divorce. Not because of the silence itself, but because neither person understands what's actually happening underneath it. The silent partner isn't punishing you, they're drowning, and the pursuing partner isn't attacking. They're terrified of losing connection. Both people are acting out of fear, neither one is the villain. I want to show you something that might completely change how you see this. Because from the outside, the person who shuts down looks cold, unbothered, maybe even smug. But inside, the opposite is happening. Research on people who withdraw during conflict found that their internal emotional activity is often higher than the person who's yelling. Not lower, higher. Their heart is pounding faster. Their stress hormones are spiking harder. They're feeling more, not less. They just have no way to show it. Because the moment they try to open their mouth, the words aren't there. It's like trying to type on a keyboard that's been unplugged. The hardware exists. The connection is gone. Many people who shut down describe it the same way. I can hear them talking, but I can't process the words. I know I should say something, but my mind goes completely blank. It's like being trapped behind glass. And here's what makes this even more painful. Most of them are fully aware that their silence is making everything worse. They can see their partner getting more upset. They can feel the distance growing, but they are physically unable to bridge it in that moment. And that helplessness, the feeling of watching your relationship crack while your body won't let you move, is one of the loneliest experiences a person can have. So the next time your partner goes quiet, before you decide what their silence means, consider the possibility that they're not choosing to abandon the conversation. They're trapped outside of it. So where does that leave you? If you're the one who shuts down, the most important thing you can learn is this. Your silence isn't the problem, but disappearing without explanation is. You don't have to talk when you're flooded, but you do have to signal that you're coming back. Something as simple as, I'm not ignoring you. I need a few minutes. I'll come back to this. That one sentence changes everything because it tells your partner that the connection isn't broken. It's just paused. And if you're the one who pursues, the most important thing you can learn is this. Their silence is not a reflection of how much they love you. It's a reflection of how overwhelmed their nervous system is. And the fastest way to get them to open up is, counterintuitively, to give them space. Not cold, punishing space. Warm space, space that says, I'm here when you're ready. Because here's the truth that both partners need to hear. You're not on opposite sides. You're both reacting to the same fear, the fear of losing each other. One of you expresses that fear by reaching out. The other expresses it by pulling in. Different strategies, same terror underneath. And the moment you stop seeing your partner's response as an attack and start seeing it as a fear signal, everything shifts. The argument stops being a battle. It becomes something you solve together. That's not just advice. That's what 40 years of research keeps proving, over and over again. If this made something click for you, it's subscribe. We break down the psychology behind relationships in a way that actually changes how you see them. And if you know a couple who keeps having the same fight, send them this video. It might be the thing that finally breaks the loop.